Ever find yourself agreeing to something and then maybe just minutes later thinking, wait, why did I do that? It goes against all your logic, everything you know. Well, today, we are diving deep into how your brain's single greatest strength, its incredible efficiency, can be weaponized and turned against you.
And let's be really clear about this right from the start. This is not a failure of your intelligence. What it is a sign that your brain's incredibly sophisticated operating system has just been hacked. And in this explainer, we're going to give you the exact blueprint of that hack.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the paradox of why smart people are often the most vulnerable. Then, we'll open up the manipulator's toolkit. We're going to break down their three-stage attack, understand the psychology driving it all, and then, most importantly, we'll build your personal defense system and show you the one thing that can break their spell every single time.
All right, so let's jump right into this really counterintuitive idea, the intelligent target paradox. See, this whole thing isn't about fooling someone who isn't smart. It's actually about exploiting the very processes that make a sharp mind so effective, its speed and its reliance on mental shortcuts. That leads to a pretty fair question, right? Why do we even have these weak spots? Well, here's the twist. They're not flaws. They're not bugs in our programming. They're actually features. They're what psychologists call heuristics. These lightning-fast mental shortcuts our brains evolved to make efficient decisions. I mean, think about it. You can't possibly analyze every single one of the thousands of choices you make a day. These shortcuts put you on a kind of mental autopilot. But that autopilot can be hijacked.
So if our brains are designed for this kind of efficiency, how does a manipulator turn that against us? Well, let's pull back the curtain and look at what we're calling the manipulator's blueprints. This is where we get into the specific vulnerabilities, the exact mental gaps they're trained to find and exploit.
And here it is, the official term for it, Cognitive Weak Spot Exploitation, or CWSE. Now there are two words here you really need to focus on. First is systematic. This isn't random, it's a calculated process. And second is bypass. The goal isn't to beat you in a logical argument. It's to find a back door that makes your logic totally irrelevant.
And these are their favorite tools of the trade, their go-to weapons. They target things we all do, like the consistency bias, right? A salesperson gets you to agree you're a safe driver before pitching you expensive car insurance. Or the reciprocity bias, that free sample at the store that makes you feel just a little bit guilty if you don't buy something. Then there's loss aversion, that only two left or sale ends in 10 minutes banner that kicks your fear of missing out into high gear. And of course, the authority principle, where we just automatically trust someone because they're wearing a uniform or have doctor in front of their name. A manipulator just finds your default setting and slams that button.
Okay, this brings us to the absolute core of how this all works. Part 3, the three-stage bypass. Think of this as the play-by-play of the mental heist. It's the anatomy of the attack, showing exactly how a manipulator slips past all of your rational defenses.
The entire infiltration follows this exact three-act structure. It starts with the setup, what we call bias activation. That leads directly to the main event, the cognitive bypass. And it all wraps up with what they want to feel like, inevitable compliance. If you can understand this sequence, you can spot it a mile away and stop it cold. So it all starts right here, with bias activation. The manipulator has figured out your go-to shortcut. Let's say it's your deep-seated need to be consistent. So they'll ask a tiny question you can't help but say yes to, and then another, and another. See, this isn't a logical argument they're building. It's emotional momentum, and that momentum creates this internal pressure, this low-level stress that starts pulling you toward one specific answer.
And the second that stress kicks in, what does your brain want to do? It wants to get rid of it as fast as possible. And that is the moment the cognitive bypass happens. Think of your rational mind, your prefrontal cortex, as the high-security command center. It's brilliant, but it's also kind of slow and energy-intensive. The manipulator triggers an emotional fire alarm, your bias. And your brain doesn't run to the command center to analyze the situation. No way. It sprints for the nearest, fastest emergency exit, that mental shortcut, completely bypassing your logical brain.
Just look at this for a second. This perfectly shows the two roads your brain is looking at in that critical moment. The manipulator's entire game is to make that fast shortcut path, the one that promises instant relief with almost zero effort, seem like the only option available. They're not trying to win a debate on that slow rational path. They are deliberately putting so much pressure on you that you're forced onto the fast path just to make it stop.
Which brings us to that baffling final step, compliance. That yes, you hear yourself saying, it's not a logical agreement. It's an act of psychological self-defense. The manipulator has created a painful conflict in your head. what's called cognitive dissonance. The urge to be consistent or to pay someone back or to not miss out, it's screaming at you. And saying no would feel awful. So you say yes, not because the deal is good, but just to shut off that blaring alarm inside your own mind. It's a surrender, plain and simple.
Okay, so we've seen the how, but why is it so devastatingly effective? Let's get into the psychology of it all. This is really about a fundamental clash between the manipulator's cold, calculated motivation and our very human, very understandable vulnerability.
And this right here is the whole story. On one side, you have the manipulator. They're all about efficiency. They want predictable results. Why would they waste time trying to logically persuade you when they can just push a universal human button and get a yes almost every time? It's low risk, high reward. And on the other side, well, that's you. And your brain is also hardwired for efficiency. It desperately wants to lower its workload and get immediate relief from stress. These two motivations lock together like puzzle pieces to create this perfect, terrible trap.
All right, we have spent enough time analyzing the attack. Now let's flip the script and talk about defense. Because understanding the blueprint is great, but knowing how to protect yourself is everything. So let's talk about building your cognitive firewall. This isn't about being smarter, it's about being more aware.
Your defense system has 3 simple steps. First, the bias audit. This means you got to get real with yourself. Are you a people pleaser who can't stand feeling like you owe someone? Then you are a prime target for the reciprocity bias. Do you hate missing out on a deal? Loss aversion is your kryptonite. Knowing your top 1 or 2 vulnerabilities is like getting a copy of the enemy's attack plan. Second, the pause and ask rule. This whole manipulation depends on speed. A simple, mandatory pause, even just 30 seconds, is a powerful circuit breaker. And finally, externalize the decision. Get it out of your head. Write it down. The simple act of listing pros and cons forces your brain to switch from that fast, emotional system back to your slow, logical, analytical prefrontal cortex. And during that crucial pause, this is the single most powerful question you can ask yourself. You need to burn this into your brain. Am I agreeing because I actually want this? Or am I agreeing because I feel like I have to? This one question forces you to figure out where that urge to say yes is coming from. Is it genuine, rational agreement? Or is it that manufactured pressure, that desperate need for relief? This is the key that brings your logical mind back online.
And that brings us to our final and honestly our most important section. If you only remember one thing from all of this, let it be this. The manipulator's greatest weapon is speed. And your greatest defense is time.
This is so important. A good manipulator creates this powerful feeling of inevitability, right? Like you're on a runaway train and the only possible stop is yes. But you have to understand that feeling is a complete illusion. It isn't logic. It is the artificial momentum they built using your own brain's programming against you. And you have the power to stop that train anytime you want, just by hitting the brakes and pausing.
So let's bring it all together. Cognitive weak spot exploitation, it's not some dark art. It's a cold, predictable process that targets the mental gaps our brains use for speed. The pattern is always the same. They activate a bias to create this irresistible, non-rational momentum. That momentum then forces a cognitive bypass, kicking your logical mind to the curb. But awareness is what breaks the loop. When you run a bias audit, you know your weak spots. When you use the pause and ask rule, you create space. And in that space, you drag your rational mind back into the driver's seat. You break the cycle the moment you decide to prioritize reality over that manufactured feeling of urgency. And in that quiet moment of deliberate thought, you take all your power back.